Who would have thought? Auburn. Bottom of the barrel in the SEC.
Crazy.
But you know what they've gotten away with in the past is they've gotten away with being one-dimensional. Because how many teams can really be one-dimensional and compete the way they've done? They've been able to do it. Some of the tight ends and fullbacks that you always allude to that nobody wants to talk about, one of the big reasons they're not able to do it right now, they haven't been able to run the football.
How much of that playbook is available to them? Remember, Malzahn, all preseason, we like Jeremy because he allows us to run our entire offense. That ended up not being the case. I don't know if that was solely on Jeremy Johnson, but nevertheless, it wasn't the case. Let's temper our expectations with Sean White here. Never started a game. He has the unenviable task of doing that in-division play in what I consider a must-win game for Auburn. But also, Jeremy Johnson just a couple of months ago beat this kid out, okay? Nothing much has changed right there.
Florida won't have to do it because their safeties play like corners a lot of the times. So you know what that means, Tennessee? A lot of 7, 8-man boxes. You know what that means, offensive line? You better be able to get from that first level defensive line to the second level linebackers, because if you don't, you will not be able to run the football. And as good as I think Joshua Dobbs is, he is good in my mind because he has the opportunity and the ability to beat you in a multitude of ways.
Tennessee, really talented at wide receiver, right?
Very.
Really big and physical at wide receiver, right?
Very.
Boy, do they struggle getting off press coverage. To be so big and talented and physical, keep an eye on that, especially against that Florida secondary. Look all around the conference this weekend. It's crazy how many coaches seem to be one more loss away from having a lot of big-time questions thrown at them. I'm looking at Brett Bielema at Arkansas. Those people were banking on this being their money year. I'm looking at Butch Jones in Tennessee, mainly not because I think it, but because Tennessee fans think it. I hear what they say, and they banked on this being their money year. Steve Spurrier, even at South Carolina, it's already kind of presumed by South Carolina fans this is his last year. But if they were to drop a game to a UCF team that just lost to Furman en route to an 0-3 start, then all of a sudden people start saying, why are we prolonging the inevitable? Let's go ahead and get a head start on every other program that will let a coach go at the end of the season. I think that's one loss away from happening, and I'll tell you this, a crazy thing has happened with Auburn fans. You know how in 2013 it was Georgia and Bama fans telling them, oh, that was a fluke play, those were lucky wins, and Auburn fans saying no, and they were right saying this, by the way. It takes skill to win those games. Now, all of a sudden, Auburn fans are looking back and saying, we struggled the year after in 2014. We're struggling so far this year. The only thing keeping us from questioning this coaching staff could be a couple of lucky breaks in big games that separated us 12-1 versus what could have been 9-3, 8-4. All of a sudden, if they lose to Mississippi State this weekend, I listen to those fans too. A number of them are ready to start asking questions. After the first loss of the year, your general thoughts on the Auburn program so far?
Obviously, I sort of stand corrected on Auburn. I don't think right now they're particularly good. It's a long season. We got 75% of the season left to play, so certainly they could turn it around, and they could play better. You know, Jeremy Johnson was sort of a surprise that he's not playing as well as he could. I was sort of surprised, to be honest, that they're going with Sean White, but obviously they feel like he can run their system and get them in better position as an offense. Mississippi State has a good, talented football team. They're young this year. They're inexperienced after losing all those starters. Still have Dak Prescott. They've recruited awfully well, and certainly it would be huge for Mississippi State as a program to knock Auburn off.
I said this earlier this week. I'll say it again. I think this Saturday for Tennessee on the road at Florida is the biggest game for many reasons of Butch Jones's head coaching career. You've been pointing to this game as well. Conference game, Oklahoma in the rearview mirror, a lot of things exposed, a lot of things to work on. The Vols a short underdog in Gainesville. Your thoughts on this one?
I think it's absolutely the most important game that Butch Jones has coached at Tennessee. He had some big ones at Cincinnati, I'm sure, and things like that. But at Tennessee, this is it. This is a game where you almost feel like if they don't win, maybe that they're all of a sudden behind schedule instead of on schedule. Florida's in the first year of a new head coach. They're obviously sort of rebuilding, but hey, they're 3-0. And they don't expect to show up and lose that game. It's a big game for the Gators as well. It's in the swamp, so that makes it problematic. If this game were in Neyland Stadium, and I know Florida's beaten them no matter where it's been, but if it were in Neyland Stadium, I'd feel pretty confident about projecting a Vols victory. But it's going to be mighty tight down there in Gainesville.
I know I'm not breaking any news here to you, but South Carolina is just flat out bad. They lost so badly to Georgia, in fact, that I'm going to ask you a question that I just asked you like 7 days ago, but I think it bears repeating. The state of the South Carolina football program today, after that shellacking in Athens, is what?
It's even worse. You know, I think that with the fans and sort of the people around the program, they see the storm clouds of brewing, and they have for a while. You know, last year certainly was a disappointment. South Carolina lost some games that they had the lead on and played well at times. You know, this year they really haven't put together but two halves of decent football on the defensive side, and the offense has been a dumpster fire. Third different starting quarterback and a true freshman going against UCF this weekend. UCF's horrible too. So that's going to provide some remedy. But, you know, when you don't recruit well, when you don't hire good assistant coaches, and you've got a program that's never been there, you know, like I said, it's not the Florida job. You can't just keep it rolling. You have to get guys that can coach. And I'll even look at this. I'll even say this, and I'll compare it to Florida. Urban Meyer, you know, had that run at Florida, and then he replaced a bunch of guys on his staff. And he's talked about it a couple of times that, you know, maybe some of those guys he replaced the other guys with, he wasn't comfortable with, they weren't very good, you know, that type of thing. And we saw that program dip too, not down to the levels of South Carolina, but, you know, they were 7-5, 8-5 football team for a couple of years. South Carolina had a very good staff. Right now they have a mediocre staff, and you know, you can kind of see that with the level of talent that they put on the field and the way their defensive line has been coached for the past 3 years.
What Donald Fagen was to Steely Dan, he is to 247sports.com. J.C. Shurburtt, check out all his work. There's endless amounts of content over there. 247sports.com is the website. J.C. Shurburtt is, as always, the man. We'll see you next week, sir.
Thanks, Josh.
This is me in an Arkansas conversation now.
Right.
That's you and I in an Arkansas conversation.
Exactly.
I want no part of that.
Exactly.
When you quit, you quit. You can't come back.
There you go.
Unless, of course, they win. Then I may rethink things. Still feeling Texas A&M as well. The movement comes because of a young man named Miles Jack out at UCLA, probably one of, if not the best players in the country. He is to them what Leonard Fournette is to LSU, basically. UCLA without his services for the rest of the year. My confidence here about as low as your winning percentage in this contest, Jonathan Rivers. It is a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10.
You know, these jokes and these snide remarks that you're throwing at me are welcome. Keep bringing them. Let me get my picks.
I'll wait.
Yeah, I'll wait. See, what I am is I'm slow and steady. Now, tomorrow is another day, and there have been some developments that may have me changing my picks, but as of right now, I like where I am. Auburn, Mississippi State, I still like the Bulldogs with a confidence of 4. Tennessee may actually drop for me because more and more I think about Florida at home. A lot of people don't realize how good offensively that Kentucky team is that Florida held to 9 points. Everybody may be overlooking that, but I'm not. Florida has a very good defense, but I'm sticking with Tennessee at 7.